Yeah, sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on IDEA Excess Cost Calculation Collection. I'm Jackie McKim. I'm a research analyst with the Special Education Data Unit. Also with me today is Mary Ackelmeyer, and Mary supports our unit. So this session is intended for staff responsible for IDEA excess cost calculation, including business managers or other staff who submit the data to ODE. There are 4 handouts provided for this session. There's a PowerPoint, an excess cost template, which is an Excel workbook, the excess cost Q&A document, and also a 4th document, which is the SECC data for excess cost calculations, which are the instructions for getting the SECC data needed for this submission. You can access these handouts from the district site or the video training page or from this GoToWebinar. Just click in the little triangle next to the handouts title to expand the windows and access. Throughout this session, if you have questions, please type them into the question box. And if you're having technical difficulties, we would like you to use the chat to let us know. And regarding the questions, we will answer those, the questions at the end of each session or as soon as possible. And here are the screenshots showing what you will see when you expand the windows to access the handouts, questions, or chat. Questions you can send privately or to all. If you select all, ODE staff and the participants will see them. If you select private, only ODE staff will see your questions. Handouts, the handouts you can download or open, and then finally chat, you can choose to chat with everyone or just to the ODE staff. So it's your choice. So now let's move on to the topic at hand, IDEA excess cost. Here are the objectives for today's webinar. I will explain what excess cost is and why districts are required to calculate it, how it is different from MOE, and how the excess cost collection is submitted to ODE. Here are the federal regulations concerning IDEA excess cost. They basically indicate that IDEA funds must be used to supplement, not supplant, state, local, and other federal funds. They further delineate how excess costs are to be calculated to ensure compliance with these regulations. The IDEA excess cost collection assists districts with meeting these requirements. Comparing excess cost to maintenance of efforts, which is also known as MOE. So excess cost compares spending on special education students to non-special education students, whereas MOE is only looking at spending on special education students. Excess cost looks at spending on certain grade ranges, elementary and or secondary, whereas MOE is looking at district level spending. Finally, excess cost looks at current year expenditures, whereas MOE is comparing expenditures for this year to last year. To sum it up, excess cost is looking to ensure that for the current fiscal year, your IDEA funds are utilized to supplement state, local, or other funds. MOE is looking to ensure that general fund spending remains the same or higher than the previous year. More information can be found using the hyperlinks on this slide. So the collection opens January 24th, or did open January 24th, 2019 at 1 o'clock, and it will close at 11:59 p.m. March 11th, 2019. There are updated forms and documents available to help you with your submission via this hyperlink, and they're also provided for this webinar, as I mentioned earlier. 3 that I want to point out are the excess cost template. It's an Excel workbook that allows you to enter your expenditures and your revenue data. It creates a data entry sheet for you to enter your data into Consolidated. This will be discussed in greater detail later. Then the next one is the excess cost Q&A. In addition to frequently asked questions, this document provides an excess cost example for a district. If you haven't reviewed this document, I would encourage you to do so, as it will help you understand your excess cost submission. And then finally, the SECC data for excess cost calculation document is step-by-step directions for downloading the SECC data that you will need for your excess cost submission. Of course, the review window for the December child count or SECC data is still currently open, and it closes February 11th, so you may need to wait until your data submission person gets finished with that if they still have things that they're working on with that collection. There are no changes for the excess cost collection this year. The required data and fields remain the same. Something to keep in mind when you're reporting excess cost, and this is per OSEP. And the special education child count data that you will use is from 2018-2019. That is the December 1st, 2018 data. All the other data that you will be using will be from the 2017-2018 data. Note that the correction window, I already mentioned that about the child count, does close. Like I said, the December child count does close February 11th, so you might need to check with your data submission to see if the data is ready. And then, as promised, I said I would talk more about the excess cost template. This is one of the handouts that you are being provided. Be sure to read the instructions on the first tab. If this is your first time completing the template, I can almost guarantee that you will be confused if you don't. Next, the way this template is set up, you will work from the back to the front. As you can see from the screenshot per the numbering, complete the revenue tab first, then expenditures, then the combined worksheet. Enter the data into the yellow cells only. Worksheets are not protected. If you mess up the worksheets and can't undo, then you'll just have to resave a new template and start over. Once you populate the revenue, expenditures, and combined tabs, the ODE Submission tab will auto-populate. There's formulas in there. It'll calculate everything that you need. Then the ODE Final Submission tab then contains the data you will enter into consolidated collections. Everything on this sheet is auto-calculated for you based on the data entered in the other tabs. So here is what that looks like. Here's the ODE Final Submission tab. As you can see, there's no data to be entered. This is a worksheet, contains formulas that calculate the values to be entered. So this year's submission for the audit year ending June 30th of 2018. The top portion, note that the top portion is for your elementary. If you have an elementary submission, if you also have a secondary submission, that would be the bottom portion of this particular tab. Are there any questions about the excess cost template or what we've covered thus far? So we'll take a moment and check. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions so far. Once you have the ODE Final Submission ready, you will need to log into Consolidated. To do this, you will need to go to the district website. The login box is located in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. Next, you will select Consolidated Collections from the list of applications, then hover over Institution Collections in the drop-down menu. Then from the flyout, hover over IDEA Excess Cost Calculation 1819, then select Submission Maintenance. This opens the data entry screen for IDEA Excess Cost. So this is what your data entry screen will look at once you log in. As I said previously, you will enter the data from the ODE Final Submission tab from the template on the screen. Once your data is entered, double check to be sure it's accurate, then click Save. If you don't have any errors, it will be saved. If you get error messages, you will need to address those before your submission is considered error-free and complete, and thus can be saved. So let's talk about errors. If you get them or have them, this is an example of what they might look like. The top screenshot, the error report, will show an error value, field name, a brief and detailed description. While they may look like a foreign language, they do provide information for correcting the record. So for error value, that indicates which values you entered that are in question. The field name indicates the name of the field or fields that are in question. For example, Part B alloc spent previous year translates to Part B allocation spent in audit year. The brief description is just that, a brief description. It does provide clues as to why you have the error, and then the detailed description tells you what is wrong. For example, the comment here was audit year totals mismatch. The detailed description indicates that the audit year totals should equal the sum of the 5 preceding fields. In other words, Part B allocation spent in the audit year plus the Title I Part A allocation plus Title III plus the state and local funds spent for CWD plus the state and local funds spent for Title I equal the audit year totals. The bottom screenshot indicates which values are in question is tied to the brief description. So for example, notice that the brief description audit year totals mismatch is indicated next to the values in question on the data entry screen. If you do run into any problems or are confused about errors that you receive, please be sure to contact me, and I'll help you resolve what those issues are. And my contact information is on the last slide of this PowerPoint. Once all the fields are corrected, you'll want to click Save again. If errors remain, you will need to fix the errors and save until your submission is error-free. If it is error-free, you will receive a record save message, so a pop-up window will appear. Next, what do you do if you need to add another record? For example, you entered your elementary school data, and now you need to submit a secondary school data. Click on the green check mark to access a new submission screen, then follow the steps discussed previously. Enter the data, save, clear any errors, then save again until you see the message record saved. Once all your records are saved, you will need to verify your submission. To do this, click on the Status Tracking tab in the top left of your screen. Then click on the triangle to the left of the IDEA Excess Cost Calculation 1819 line. This expands the window to access the verification screen. Finally, click the Verification Submission button. You also have the option to remove verification of your reports. This feature was added to most collections and consolidated. However, this isn't particularly useful for this collection. You can make changes and re-verify without removing your verification. Once you click the Verify Submission button, you will receive a verification record inserted message, and your name and date will be inserted on the collection line as shown in this purple box. Your submission would now be verified and considered complete. Next, I wanted to talk about the production download reports. If you need to look to see what you or someone else submitted this year, last year, or in previous years, you can use the production download. The production download feature allows you to download data submitted from 2010, 2011 through the current submitting year. To download data, step 1, you're going to click on the Reports tab. Step 2, in the Collections column, click on the IDEA Excess Cost Calculation. Then step 3, in the Report Year column, click on the year you wish to download. Step 4, click on Production Download Report in the Report column. You will then receive an email from the ODE Help Desk that contains a link to access your file containing the data. Click on the link. It will ask you for your email address. Enter your email address, then click Submit Email Address. Then step 5, when the pop-up window appears, you'll click on the download icon to retrieve the Excel file containing your data, and then you can save it to a desired location. If you have questions or need help, again, please be sure to contact me if you have trouble with this feature. So with respect to this collection, here's some more important reminders. The collection closes on March 11th of 2019, so you do have a bit of time before this collection closes. Be sure to submit by the due date. We start calling districts about 2 weeks in advance of closing if there are no submissions or no recent activity or errors by your district. And it's not a gotcha, it's just we want to help everybody get in on time, and we're here to help. We conduct data quality checks the week after the collection closes because December child count impacts the calculation. And then finally, the recorded webinar will be posted on the ODE video training webpage in a few days. A quick review of the items needed for this collection. So for the data, you'll need 2018-2019 SECC data, which is the December 1st, 2018 data. You'll need your 2017-2018 expenditure data. And then templates and forms, you'll need the excess cost template, the excess cost Q&A, and the instructions for the SECC data. And then as promised, if you need help or have questions, here's my contact information. Mary is also on here, so you can always contact Mary to ask questions as well. We're always happy to help. And I should ask, are there any other questions or anything that needs clarified? It doesn't look like we have any questions. So with that, thank you so much and have a great day.